In this video, I'm going to show you how to install rafter vents, and we're going to do it right now. There's a couple different ways that your roof is designed to breathe. There's different systems. It depends on how your house was built. And in my old house, I had gable vents on either end, but then I changed to have soffit vents and a ridge vent. And right here, this is a soffit vent, and the way this is designed is air comes in through here, and it goes all the way up to the ridge, and up here is a ridge vent. You can see that plywood is cut back, but basically under the cap shingles of your roof, there is kind of this foam filter to prevent insects, bees, all that stuff, and the airflow from your soffit vents come up and escapes out of the top of your roof. If I was leaving this space unconditioned, I would not need these rafter vents. However, I'm turning this into my office, so I'm gonna be insulating it, adding heat in here, drywalling, and everything else. So I am going to need rafter vents, and here's why. This dormer roof right here is a great example of a miniature roof, what yours might look like. And this does have soffit vents, and it has a ridge vent. So I'm gonna be doing the same thing here. I am going to be installing the rafter vents in here, just something like that. This is just an example. But the reason for that is because I don't wanna just jam pack this with insulation. That would render this soffit vent useless and pretty much render the ridge vent useless. So what this does is it creates a channel for the air to come up and escape out of the ridge. This whole system will do a couple things for your roof. It will allow your roof decking to breathe. In the summertime, it gets really hot, and if it overheats, it could damage the shingles. You also don't want moisture to build up in here. If it was just insulation, that moisture can sit against the roof deck, between the insulation and the roof deck, and it could cause rot or potentially mold. That wouldn't be good. It can also prevent ice dams by having the cold air coming in the wintertime, and it can even save on energy costs by bringing the cool air in the summertime, preventing that heat from radiating into the building. As with anything, there's all kinds of different brands. I just happen to grab these, which are ProVent. They have 24-inch wide ones for older buildings that were framed 24 inches on center, meaning the rafters are 24 inches apart. In my case, these are 16 inches on center, which is standard now, so that's what I got. And these are easy enough to understand, where you just put them in, you staple them to the roof deck, and then you create a channel for air to flow. But as you can see now, at the bottom, there is a giant opening. However you choose to do it, you should block up that opening, making all of the air that comes into that soffit vent go through here. And I, in the past, have tucked insulation against it as like a sacrificial piece of insulation, just to block and make sure nothing goes in there. But after posting a video about this before, I have learned a lot of things from you and just the internet in general. You can do that, but that gives you an opportunity to create moisture coming through the, if you use fiberglass, it can come right through that fiberglass. Maybe you could use mineral wool. Mineral wool has no problem with moisture, but I have seen a ton of ways that you can do this. They actually make rafter vents that have kind of an accordion style bottom that you can bend to block that up. Some people use 1-inch foam and they cut a block and then they fill around the voids with some fire stop foam or some fire caulking. They also sell just basically pieces of cardboard that you can fold and fit in there. But I'm gonna try something that I think is gonna be way easier and cheaper. I am gonna use this as a rafter vent and an air dam. So however I have to do it might take a little finagling, but I'm gonna bend it into place and create that little blocker, and then it will continue up this way and act as a rafter vent. So let's give it a shot. Start here. Might have to bend and cut. And I want this to go back far enough where insulation will sit on top of this wall. If I was to go straight up here, then this right here would lose R value. So I want to try and get it back as far as I can. Just put some staples up here just to hold it in place. I can do some down here. You don't want to have any gaps if you can help it. So I am going to not staple this at the top right now, and I'll show you why. But that basically is it. I think that's going to work. That'll save me some money, and I think it's going to be easier. Will the inspector like it, though? That's the question. A couple tips before we move on. I'm doing this before I do my strapping, if you're going to do strapping, which I would recommend, because it's going to be a real pain if you have strapping going this way every 16 inches. This is part of the insulation process, but I'm going to do it before I get my frame inspection so the inspector can see it, and it's going to be easier. Also, watch out for nails. Watch your head, because roofing nails come through all over the place here, and try not to puncture this right here. Luckily, you don't have to get rid of all these nails, because in general, you could just find a good place like this, and you should be clear. So I could staple that right up and not have a problem, even if the nails are in this channel. It's fine. But if you have ones like over here, and you're trying to staple this, you might have to cut these, or if there's really long nails, but sometimes I just poke it through like that and then staple it. And for nails that are long like this, you might have to cut them. Just be careful. Usually these nails are for staging and stuff when they did the roof because they're so long, but you don't want to vibrate them so much when you're cutting them, so either snip them or maybe use a cutoff wheel. But if you don't like the sparks that come with a cutoff wheel, you could always use a Sawzall. Just be careful. Now when you do your second piece and all of the others, there's a couple schools of thought when it comes to this. Some people like to actually leave a gap like this so that if moisture gets in there, it can actually escape. And some people like to underlap it where it's like this. Let's say the ridge is up here and this is the soffit. So that way, if there's moisture in here, the school of thought is to let it drain all the way down to the soffit. The way I install it is I just go right on top of here, like that. But these should lock in just like that if you want to create a nice tight seal. Otherwise, if you do this, this is going to hold this up and there'll be a gap there. Again, there's different brands here, there's different vents. Just do your research and check the manufacturer's recommendation of install. In my case, I am going to install it how I always have. So if you wanted to, this is why I didn't staple it at the top, you can work this in and overlap it like that. And in my case, I'm just going to line it up like this. I think that's gonna work. Just try and keep them even in between the bays and staple them. And just as a note, whatever insulation you're using, this should work. I am gonna do blown-in insulation just because I do not have a lot of space here. This is a 2x8 rafter, and I'll never get the R value that I actually need. But in this case, we're gonna try and get as much as possible. So I'm gonna do blown-in insulation, and that way it'll fill in these gaps here. And I think I'll get a higher R value than if I was to just put bats of insulation here, because you'd have this gap right there, like this. And of course, you could always do closed cell foam if you wanted to. I've heard a lot of things about it, good things, bad things. In my case, I don't want to go spending all that money. And I've heard some people have concerns about in the future that there's going to be moisture issues because it locks everything in so tight. But that's totally up to you. Then we just continue that process all the way up. And I'm using 1/4-inch staples. Obviously, don't get one so long that they go through the roof. And if you like using these ones, hammer stapler, you can. But I'm not that good at it. So now we have our first bay with the rafter vents done. And the way you want to decide where to stop them, you just want to, whatever you're planning for insulation, you want to be plenty high above that. In my case, with blown-in fiberglass, I need to be about 14 to 16 inches away from the insulation, which is actually going to be probably about right there with strapping and everything. This right now is at about 26 inches. So I should be plenty above that, even if I wanted to get more than an R49, which is currently what the code is for this. So, first bay, good. Now I just got to do that a whole bunch more times. So I have 2 more tips for you. Not all of these rafter bays are going to be the same size. For instance, this one is a little smaller, and I just had to kind of fold this up and staple it to the sides. And you might have to do the same thing, whatever you have to do to kind of get a nice seal here and block the air from coming in this way. And if you have a bay that is much bigger, you can use some foam on the sides or some caulking or whatever you have to do. Some people even block each one of these bays off with a piece of wood and then tuck some insulation in the top or foam it or whatever you have to do. And the second tip is an electric stapler is awesome. I'm not dealing with that thing anymore. It was giving me trouble. Moving on. Over on this side, I probably only need one, but these ceiling joists are probably going to be in my way in a couple of these bays, or probably a lot of these bays. So I might have to cut the vent or do whatever I have to do to get it around that. Again, I can use foam afterwards to block it up. We'll see how it goes. Want to make sure that you don't push that tight, too tight, so you still have enough room for the airflow. That's good. Just have a gap right here that'll have to fill in. Then I'm even going to push this down like I did on the other ones, be able to get more insulation in there. I have 2 dormers in here. I'm also going to do those roofs. So basically, same thing here. And I'll go up as high as possible because I want to get as much insulation in here as possible. And right here, doing them isn't going to do much good unless we have air from outside coming in here. So if I can do something right here to get some kind of airflow in here, that'd be awesome. So on the other side, I'm going to drill a couple holes way up high and see if I can get some airflow into those bays. I do want to put some insulation up here, but if I go high with those holes and fill this, at least you'll have a little bit of an air gap right up under here, and we should get some airflow in here. That's the hope anyways. Some people might say, don't worry about it, but why not? I'll give it a shot. Before I drill those holes, I'm just going to do a pilot bit so I don't go through the roof. I just go slow and make sure it comes through right here. Right there. That one's good. Now I can use an 1¼ inch bit, drill these holes. gonna drop this one down just a little bit and drill this one out. Okay, so all of these bays, like I said, I'll go pretty much up to here. And then on this one, I'll leave it a little shorter, like here, so we still have some room for air to flow right here. And I think that'll be good. And that way, this side, this will get a little airflow too. There might be some waste here. And this one, I just cut one of these in half. Let's see if that'll work. And obviously this is pretty specific to my roof, but you might have to do something like this, so whatever you gotta do to make it work. So now for these 3 bays, I'll just cut one of these in half. And they're 4 foot long, so halfway is right here. X marks the spot. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but I'm going to use my fog machine to do a little smoke test. See if we can get the fog to come out the top. So I think that's going to work. I'll do the same thing on this dormer, and then I'll just install the rest of these. Got about 70 to go. I actually had some leftover pieces, so why not extend this to where the rest are? This one's upside down. It's going to bother me. Rafter vents done. Moving on to the next step. That's for another video. Make sure you follow along because I have a ton of videos that I'm going to be making on this project. So if you had to do something like this, I hope it helped, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Okay, no, okay, so we'll say, okay, do you want to start over? Damn it, start over. Nope, we're starting over.
Do you want to start it over?
I guess so. Where did we end? I think we got it. Nope. A couple dust. A couple tips before we move on. Watch your head. Safety splints. I'm out of staples. So, watch me do it. Was that good enough? This staple gun is freezing. This staple gun sucks. Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks. Yeah, that didn't work. Cut that, Lauren. Anything?
No.
Nothing? So I think that's gonna work. You kidding me? I haven't had to cut a single nail yet. But now that I just said that, guess what? Ooh, it's hot. Oh, it's hot. This house is on fire. Oh, damn it. Is the light a good thing or a bad thing? Is it spooky? And we're gonna do it right now. And we're gonna do it right now. Is it dumb? In this video, I'm going to show you how to remove a screen on a window when it's screwed in from the outside. So basically, you just bring your window up like this. It's that easy.